Okay, so Ian, thank you so much for giving up some of your time today to speak to me. I know you're a really busy man, and it's always nice to have a conversation with you. Just to kick things off for the benefit of those people that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, could you give me a bit of an overview of your work history prior to becoming an easy business partner?
Sure. So my work history, prior to becoming an easy business partner, I've done a handful of roles, but most of them within the corporate office. So a lot of them having to do with, like desk jobs. So I came from like an audit group, did environmental inspections. The industry in general was oil and gas. And so a lot of things to do with retail and wholesale fuel sales, things like that. And so that's kind of where my background came from. But way back in my university days, I have a degree in computer science. So yeah.
So you started off with computer science and then kind of segued into various, almost sounds like white collar roles. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There was a brief period where I was doing sales, where I was kind of a territory manager for the business, and so I'd go out and I'd shake hands and do contract negotiations, like 10-year deals and things like that. But I think that really helps to understand kind of the small business mentality and coming over to easy business. I think it was an asset that really helps.
Definitely. Ultimately, I'm a believer that people buy from people. And so having that experience coming into any business is going to prove to be really useful. Were you experienced in app development or digital marketing or any of these other verticals sort of leading up to joining the network?
So with a degree in computer science, there was general awareness of these things. Like I knew of JavaScript, I knew of some elements and things, but I hadn't kept up with it. And so it had been what 15 plus years since I had really had my nose in a book or done any sort of studies around computer science and programming and things. So I feel like in terms of experience to bring back into it, there wasn't all that much that I really had. And so that's where I feel like the easy business and like easy sites, the platform is very, very intuitive. It's the drag and drop. And there's a significant amount of support around the modules and building sites as well that easy business provides. So in terms of my experience, there's some that I could bring to the table from a programming perspective, but it wasn't really even necessary, I'd say. When you get into easy sites, it just sort of, yeah, it just sort of, it's more of you have to understand stylistically what you want and what the customer wants to make it successful, really.
Excellent. Really good to kind of get that insight. And when you were sort of researching businesses to launch, and this was quite recently, by the way, I should have mentioned to the audience that you only joined the network this year. Um, what appealed to you about easy business over other opportunities that you could have pursued?
I think the appeal with Easy Business is the completeness of the package and the support. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that you're going to be handed customers and clients and things like that. But certainly, as hard as you want to push and as hungry as you are, Easy Business is there to stand beside you and to help you to build your business. And so that's where I felt Easy Business, especially in the what do you even call it? Like not really even the onboarding process, but even just in the initial sort of conversations that I would have with yourself or Antonio, right? Just the regular back and forth and the communication, and understanding the nuance and the circumstance of where I'm at in terms of being accommodating and bringing me on board and to really explain and to help me to understand what it is I'm getting into. So um, a lot of transparency, a lot of being able to reach out to, say, other members, other franchisees of Easy Business, and setting up times where I can just have that one-on-one conversation, candid. Tell me, what are your successes? What if you had the opportunity to tell yourself, back 5 years ago when you joined Easy Business, a piece of advice, what would it be? These kinds of things. And I can have those candid conversations with franchisees, and you guys were super accommodating for all of that. So I really knew that I was getting something that was supported and worthwhile and of value.
Excellent. Really, really detailed answer. So we support entrepreneurs all over the world. We've got partners in the UK, obviously. You can probably tell I'm British by the accent, and developing countries like Trinidad and Tobago. What's the market in Canada for these types of services? Do you feel like there's a need?
I'd say it's going to depend, because Canada is such a large country. It's going to depend on which market you're in. But that's the nice thing about, the easy sites and apps and everything else, is that in the age of the internet now, and I know I'm probably dating myself by using that phrase, but everyone's interconnected. And so you can be in a very small place, in a very small town, and again, it comes down to the franchisee being willing and taking that risk, a little bit of bravery, if you will, to head out to far off places and identifying the needs of folks. I think when you're looking at a major metropolitan area, of course, there's going to be other marketing agencies, consultancies, things like that, and that's naturally going to be part of the competition. And again, to reference what I said earlier, Easy Business will not hand you clients. That's not how this business works. You have to be able to, get out there and really push, and to put yourself out there and to try and secure the sale and secure the clients. And I think putting more of a relationship focus on your deals really goes far, because if you look at it in the world of competition, you have your own hosting fee, and then your competition has a hosting fee. And if you really put it into perspective, without a relationship, your competitor drops it by $5 and you've now lost the business, right? Like that's just not how these things work. They will be there as your customer more on relationship, and this is just my experience. They will be there as your customer for a long time because of how you treat them and how you deal with them, and how you develop that relationship overall. So, insight into the local market, I'd say it's in Canada. It can vary. I have not really gone too far outside of really my major metropolitan area. But even then, as soon as you head out and you have a conversation with any entrepreneur, any small business owner, they open up right away. As soon as you start asking them any question about, you know, you know, how's your website? Do you find that you drive a lot of traffic to your brick and mortar store from your website? Do you do a lot of sales on there? Is that something that a lot of people are finding hard to do, or is there's problems, or you can't? Businesses, like I'm thinking like a pet shop or something like that, will change the price of their pet food or whatever it is, right? And so sometimes the interface that they have is just a little bit too difficult or clunky to be able to change it as inflation comes in or whatever it is. They unstock things, and so you can step in there. That's an opportunity for you to be able to showcase the abilities of Easy Sites and Easy Business in general, and your business and your brand, to be able to step in and support them. And when they see that support, that you're willing to help them, then that's how you begin to really show your value and you develop that relationship with them. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's not a direct answer to insights in the local market, but I feel like it's just general advice, I guess, for a small business. Yeah.
I think it's a really helpful answer, actually, because it's not just about the market. There are smartphone users everywhere. There are internet users everywhere. So of course, there's going to be a market for businesses wanting to connect with people on those channels. That goes without saying. I think one of the things that you touched upon there, which is such a valuable thing to highlight, is that business owners are experiencing real commercial problems. And you mentioned some of those problems, so needing to update prices constantly, or keep their digital presence up to date. And actually, for them, a lot of the time, it's about finding someone that they trust and that they can build up a relationship with, that they know is going to be there to help them. And actually, if you're good at relationship building, then you can find those entrepreneurs, yes, in your local area, but also, like you mentioned, when you move out to smaller places, those people still exist, those problems still exist. So I thought it was a really interesting answer. One of the things I'd like to sort of talk about is the process you went through when you joined the network. Could you speak to the training program that we offered here?
Sure. So the training program is, wherever possible, paired with an expert that's actually a franchisee. And so they'll take you through the systems, and they'll take you through the different forums and websites, and you can get very, very nitty gritty. It's just in my case, it was just a one-on-one. But the classroom sizes are very small. There was one other class that I attended, or one other training session rather, and that training session was just me and one other person with the trainer. And so I feel like probably one other person makes the most sense, because then you can sort of learn off of the way in which the other person is thinking and the questions that they've got. But then you can still have it, I'm going to use the word, sort of like a smaller class size, so that you can still focus on the things that you want to learn, that you have the most questions about, and making it very, very detailed in terms of, like, even for easy sites, we were looking at, can you change the curve on the side of the button and change the angle of it? And the answer is yes. And so it's just to go through it and to find all these little things that you can do. If you don't want to change the curve on the button, you don't have to, right? But the option and the functionality is still there. And so, learning about it, and even at a high level, and all the sessions are recorded as well. So it's something that you can refer back to and reference the video recordings afterwards too. So the training was great. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Brilliant. I certainly think that training people in small groups is always better, because you can personalize the session, to the individual. So where you've got someone that wants to go into the technology and learn about curving buttons, you
Mm-hmm.
can do that. But I know also other people that would prefer to outsource the website builds to us and really focus on business development. So those smaller groups just enable you to do that, and I think that's quite valuable. One of the interesting things about your journey with us is that you joined the network just as we were releasing our brand in a box service. And some people watching this video probably are thinking, well, what is brand in a box? In summary, it's where we create a unique brand for your business. So this isn't shared with our central organization or any other entrepreneurs. It's something that's just for you to use alone. So my first question surrounding that is, why did you decide to opt into that service rather than trading under the FullPivot brand, for example?
Sure. So the brand in a box service helps entrepreneurs and small businesses like myself, right? Who are just getting into it, to start off their business on what I'll say is the right foot. Um, we've spoken in this interview quite extensively about the importance of relationships and the foundations of establishing that relationship for ongoing, let's call it, customer and client loyalty. But if you don't present yourself in the right way, if you don't have the right logos, if you're coming from a world where you just don't even understand what a digital asset is really, right? From icons to business cards and things like that. I mean, I think we all understand sort of what business cards are, but to get up to speed as to what the latest trends are, you're going to be left basically learning on your own without the brand in a box service. And so that's what I felt it really did was they helped me to Elia helped me to design the logo, and there was a few back and forths to try and get that all set up and make sure that it was tweaked and tailored to exactly what I had as a vision in my mind. And so it even came down to, I think one of the initial things was he had presented some ideas, and I came back and I took one of the logo ideas that he had, and then I kind of did a paint drawing over top of it. It was very, very basic, but then he was able to take that paint drawing and then kind of manipulate it and make it a little bit more crisp. And so, there's certain things that you just have no idea about, digital resolution and pixelation. If it's too small and then you try and blow it up and you put it onto your website and it just looks terrible, right? So it's those kinds of things that the brand in a box service really helps to help you to form what your business is and make it presentable on day one.
Excellent. Really good to kind of get that feedback, and also useful to learn that there was flexibility there, and feedback was there as you were developing that brand identity. Is there any history behind Vineway Creative as a brand? What was your sort of thinking behind the brand name? Because that's one thing that we don't do for you. We do the obviously the logo and the website and the adverts, but the name, that comes from you.
Right. Yeah. So Vineway Creative came from when my family, my parents, I guess, when they first came to Canada. So I was born in Mauritius. And so when we first came to Canada, we were in a lower income housing sort of residence. And so the street name was Vineway, Thorny Vineway. And so when we moved into there, I just remember that name. And so this is sort of a callback to those modest roots, if you will, where we were living in these kind of conditions, but look at how far we've come. And so I wanted to be able to put a little bit of that in terms of a reminder of where we had come from to where we are now and where we can continue to be, right? So that's kind of why I put the Vineway Creative in there, and the creative part is just because it's a marketing agency, right? So we wanted to be able to put something into the name that would help in terms of helping our customers and clients identify what exactly we do. We're basically a studio or an agency to help them develop these digital assets and establish their presence online.
Really interesting story. Out of curiosity, have you shared any of that branding content with your family? Because I'm assuming that some of them potentially still remember living in Vineway and remember what it was like.
Yeah, I shared that with my mom, and she was just like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds great." She I think she got it right away, and I spoke with my brother about it, and he was he's always kind of a bit more, I'm not going to use the word stoic, but he's a little bit more quiet and sort of muted anyways. But yes, but they all got it. They understood it very quickly, and having that conversation with your clients and sharing that story about humble beginnings and being able to share what you've learned from then to now is a big conversation starter. I think too. I think it helps to connect with a lot of people who are entrepreneurs. It's more than just sharing it with your family that would be able to remember that name, but people often will be like, why didn't you just call it Ian's Creative Agency? Like, why didn't you just do that? And so sometimes that question alone will kick off a whole conversation that you can then develop that relationship with your clients.
And I suppose from a client perspective, it positions you as someone that's down to earth and someone that maybe understands the value in a dollar.
Yeah.
Forgive me for not thinking of a better phrase off the fly, but you kind of get the impression that someone from that background, you know, wants to deliver a good service, wants to work hard, but also wants to go out at a price point that's fair, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as a business owner, you get to make that decision, right? Obviously, there are some default kind of hosting fees and things like that that will be part of your breakdown as to how you'll be doing your pricing. But when you're dealing with small businesses and folks, I think it really does give you as the business owner the flexibility to be able to make a decision, based on who you're dealing with, right? And what their background is. So there's a lot of, small restaurants, let's say, where they just want to focus on making a bowl of pho, like, they just want to focus on making curry, whatever it is. And so when you have these conversations with them and they understand your humble roots, and you can then, tailor your product and services to their requirements and their needs. And I think that really appeals to a lot of people as well.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. I just love the narrative around it and the story behind it as well. It's really compelling, and I think a great way to start off building a relationship with someone. Normally, when I conduct these interviews, people have been with the network for a year or two, and they can, talk about a wide range of clients that they've worked with. I'm mindful that you've only launched your business very recently. I was curious, however, if you had found any early successes or could give us any insight as to how the business has been developing at this early stage.
The business has been growing as much as I've been pushing. So the more that I get out there and I have more conversations, the more likely I'm going to find other clients, right? Or new clients rather. And so if I go out there and I, go and I have the conversations and I spend the time, I will find more clients and the business will grow. If I don't do that, then it stagnates. And so that's why there is, local business groups, entrepreneur groups, and things like that that are really, those are very, very valuable, especially in the early stages, to be able to join those groups and then have those conversations. Because then you'll see like-minded individuals who are hungry, that want to grow their businesses. And so that's where you can find an opportunity to be able to develop a website for them or build an app for them. And then from there, you can grow with their business and establish that relationship early. Ian and Vineway Creative have been with me since day one, right? That's really where you want to get in and develop that relationship, because then that person, even if 10 years from now they decide their business has outgrown what you and your business are able to produce, you still have that great relationship, and you're still gonna, through that relationship and through that 10-year relationship, you're still going to have them pass on your name to other people, to reference you to other people that then could spur on additional business.
Brilliant. And some really good advice there. What are your future plans for the business?
My future plan for the business is actually I'll be acquiring a UPS store. And so the idea behind a UPS store is, yes, it's, shipping, they do print services and things like that. But what I find is that in a UPS store, you're also going to have mailboxes. And so those mailboxes, apart from a residence, typically they're used by businesses, small businesses, and those are exactly your clients. So acquiring the mailbox side of the UPS store is a big thing, because now you have clients that on a daily basis almost are coming into your store, and then that's where you can actually have just a light, friendly conversation with them to understand what kind of business they're doing if they have the time. And otherwise, you can over time just develop those relationships with them. And then that's where you can then extend over the easy business side of things. And your creative digital marketing agency can extend into their businesses. But at the same time, I've found that as much as this is a digital business, there's also a print business, and people like paper. At some point they're going to need forms printed out to physically complete and things like that. And so that's where I find that although we're talking about a digital business here, there are hand in hand benefits to both, in a business.
Definitely, and I suppose, the services kind of complement each other in that, you could have someone that they might initially want a website, but then only a few months later they might need some signage or some copying done or
Mhm.
shipping done. Ultimately it's all about solving business problems, whatever they are, and it's all about you building quality relationships with the people. So I think it's a really interesting concept, and I'll be keen to see how it plays out. Final question for the day. So, what advice would you give someone who's considering joining the Easy Business Network?
My advice is basically, um, this is the start. This is the start of your journey to developing a great business. Um, the hard work really starts now, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it when you really um, push and you can believe in yourself. I think with any small business or entrepreneurship, what what you're really doing is you're making a bet on yourself more than anything. Market conditions, they change. That is out of your control. Um, whether or not someone wants to sign and you find them on that right time in the day or what have you, that's largely out of your control. But if you've got that fire and you've got that passion and and you've got the confidence and you can trust and you would bet on yourself every day, then this is the business for you.